Hello everyone, I welcome you to another video by Legacy IAS where I'm going to take you into deep waters of India. The deep waters which surround India and the security of all of that, because it's not just the land which requires security, it's also the waters. In the backdrop of recent China's expansionist tendencies in the maritime zone, especially in the Indian Ocean region, this particular defense exercise has become all the more prominent. However, the beginning of this particular exercises, the coastal defense exercises, which currently we're going to talk about, is Sea Vigil 2022, where the horrors of 2611 are still not past our memories. In the backdrop of this entire situation and a pledge that we will never allow something like this in our waters or through our waters, in that background, we're going to discuss this entire discussion with you. So here we are talking about the Sea Vigil 2022, which is actually the largest nationwide coastal defense exercise, all right, which is of course undertaken by the Indian Navy. This began very close to where we are seated today on 15th of November 2022. Now, as the third edition of this particular nationwide Pan India Coastal Defense exercise, this was conducted over a period of 2 days. These exercises basically Sea Vigil, and there's another exercise which we'll also do towards the end of this discussion is Stroke. Together, they kind of take care of our entire maritime security. All right. Now, this kind of maritime security tries to envelope all the issues that may arise in the maritime domain, ranging from the different terrorist attacks that may happen to piracy issues and also aircraft carrier and submarine operations. Right. So, in that sense, the entire gamut of security is kind of incorporated in this particular discussion of ours. So, as far as the background of this particular exercise is concerned, we basically have this national level coastal defense exercise conceptualized in 2018. All right, to validate the different measures that we've basically taken as a summation in the backdrop of the 2611 attack. That particular point of time, basically India and particularly the Navy was in shock, and they kind of took a pledge to ensure that this kind of situation and this kind of handicapness that India basically suffered is not going to happen ever again. So they joined hands with the coastal guards and also the police forces of the coastal states in order to put up a combined coastal defense strategy that basically looks over and guards the entire 7,516-kilometer long coastline. Now we need to understand that a coordinated approach is very, very important to have a synchronized retaliation, coordinated action and response. And in this regard, the police forces, which happen to be within the domain of the different coastal states, the coordination among all these states is very, very essential to have this kind of an intelligence sharing, to have this kind of a security system which is controlled, coordinated and managed. So it comes in this background whereby you're trying to bring kind of put forward this principle of cooperative federalism and achieve this particular objective. Now, the series of this particular sea vigil exercises started way back in 2021, and this particular exercise also built up towards theater level readiness operational exercise, in short, which is called Tropics, which the Indian Navy also conducts every 2 years, right? So as a combination of the Sea Vigil and Tropics is what we are all together trying to target the different maritime issues that may happen in India. Now, as far as the whole purpose of doing it is simple, that coastal security, all right, is a part of coastal defense. And this concept of Sea Vigil, this is, in the statement that is basically come out by the the Press Information Bureau, and they say that this particular Sea Vigil is to activate the coastal security apparatus across India and look after this coastal defense mechanism. So as a coordinated combined effort with the objective to activate the entire coastal apparatus and also manage the entire coastal defense mechanism. Here, if we look at what exactly are the features of this particular exercise, now this particular exercise, of course, as I told you, took place in the entire coastline, but not just the entire border, but also the exclusive economic zones of India. So within the maritime borders of India and also the exclusive economic zone, and this happens to be an important part in this regard because we are just trying to secure our borders as much as it's possible. Here we saw the involvement of all the coastal states as well as the relevant union territories, along with the other maritime stakeholders, which included the local community, because a lot of time it is the locals who kind of give information. They have to be made aware. All the time you cannot have security officials at all places. So if you sensitize and make the coastal and the fishing communities aware of the kind of possible attacks, the kind of possible threats that they may just have to be wary about, they just have to be very, very cautious and pick up the hints and accordingly inform the necessary officials, it kind of makes the whole process much more seamless. The Coastal Command, which was created and headed by the Coast Guard Chief, the objective is to coordinate the activities of the central and the state agencies, including all the coastal police forces. Also, as a part of this, the National Command Network was created to have real-time maritime domain awareness, so that in real time you are aware of the different developments which are taking place, which basically see a linkages between the Navy as well as the Coast Guard operation. Altogether, what we're trying to create is a radar and an automatic identification system. At different places, almost at 46 sites, we have installed our radars and we're just trying to intercept any possible movement which could probably be a threat to us. So the kind of exercise that we're trying to is both precautionary as well as curative. Here, if we look at the different stakeholders which got involved, something which is very important to kind of have an understanding the expanse of which this entire exercise is reaching. Here, basically the Indian Navy coordinated with the Coast Guards and tried to do all the different or coordinate all the different maritime activities. There was also participation from 500 surface assets, all right, which includes your Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Coastal Police, also the Customs, Foreign Department, the Port, the Forest Department, the Port Authorities, and the private operators who basically participated in this particular exercise. Here, the entire facilitation of this entire exercise is done by none other than the Ministry of Defense. Also, we see that the Home Ministry is also coordinating the entire mechanism, and here we have other departments like shipping, waterways, petroleum, natural gas, fishery, animal husbandry, dairy, customs, and other agencies, both of the central and the state department. Anyone who is a stakeholder in these particular maritime coastal states which are in question here, they all kind of become important in the entire exercise, and a coordinated action is very much important for this purpose. So in view of what the mission that Prime Minister has towards the entire push that is being given by the NCC, there was participation of 800 NCC cadets, all right, across these coastal states and union territories. So they kind of created a huge amount of awareness, and the involvement of these cadres is something that has given it a lot of push, great impetus, and of course it is expected to go a long way in terms of strengthening our defense mechanism in the coastal areas. Now, as far as the event is concerned, the entire coast was basically kept under surveillance, all right, through a lot of ships as well as aircraft, and even helicopters were utilized to reinforce the special operations personnel. So here we are looking at a combination of not just the coastal states and the Navy in this regard, but also some of the helicopters and aircrafts have also been used in this particular exercise. Ports also are the ones which are so very important as far as seaport trade are concerned. So the security mechanism of these ports is also was also very very important during this exercise. In fact, it involved crisis management of all the ports in order to contain situations of emergency. So ports which become our points for any kind of sea trade, and some emergencies must just might break out. So in this regard, lot of crisis plan management plans are also being brought into place, which were a part of this particular exercise. Also, we saw the state police teams, the Indian Navy commandos, as well as the National Security Guards, who all together worked in understanding and trying to understand acts in order to counter and cater to maritime terrorism. So this is a problem which is, of course, kind of susceptible, especially as I was telling you, as a deterrence post the 26/11 attacks. This was something of an initiative that has been taken up. So this particular exercise dealing with maritime terrorism kind of dealt with technical surveillance infrastructure, which is basically called the National Command, Control, Communication and Intelligence, right? So here, this particular concept, the NC cube I is basically a kind of a network that is being created whereby you have a system of command, control, communication as well as intelligence in managing the entire system. Now, the Information Management and Analysis Center, which is located in Gurgaon, is the one whereby the different stations are kind of working, coordinating their surveillance activities and sharing the necessary information for better control and coordination. So there are a lot of pointers which are there spread across the country trying to make this particular exercise extremely successful. Now, this particular exercise is important for multiple reasons. If you look at the scale and the expanse of this particular exercise, the amount of geographical extent that we're trying to cover, the coastal states, the EEZ and management being taking place in places like Gurgaon. So the number of stakeholders which are involved, the number of units which are participating, they all kind of make it a big event, and all these stakeholders are incorporated here. So we're looking at a much larger coordinated effort as far as maritime security is concerned. So you need to really understand this, that we have mechanisms like quadrilateral alliance, all right, or trilateral alliances, several GIMPECs and a lot of other exercises which we're doing with other nations like Australia, United States and Japan. But we also need to have our indigenous robust mechanisms. You know, we cannot really, in the age when we are talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat, these are imperative for us to look into, all right, and we really need to kind of prep up and, like it said, activate our entire coastal mechanism, so that we are kind of prepared and vigilant in the event that we have any such unforeseen circumstances. So there have been and what is also very significant is the fact that this kind of large scale expanse that we are seeing, or having a geographical extent whereby you're having a nation level coordinated effort, because it's not like you have not had small scale exercises before. All right, there have been instances of several small scale exercises which actually take place on a regular basis in several coastal states, which include combined exercises among the neighboring states. All right, also national exercises that have taken place among several of these states put together. The way in which the entire Sea Vigil is trying to serve a much larger purpose is something that's very unique and significant about this particular exercise, whereby we're looking at the combination of all these stakeholders coming together. So it's basically providing the opportunity at the highest level to have the preparedness, control, command, communication in the domain of maritime security as well as coastal defense. Also, this particular exercise is trying to give us a much more realistic understanding, taking a stock of the situation and helping us understand where you're standing, all right, what your strengths are and where are the areas which require your attention. So when you're having a much realistic understanding, you're much able to better prepare yourself and strengthen accordingly to ensure this maritime as well as national security. Now, the commanders in chief of all the three navies, the Western, Southern, and the Eastern, all right, were additionally also brought into place in this particular respective areas and designated as the coastal defendants, CINCs, the commanders in chief of these individual areas. So here we also have, besides the Sea Vigil, there were also additional activities which basically took place in response or in addition to these particular exercises, that the government has planned that we need to have a very good intelligence network among the fishing communities, because they are the first front line in order to provide whatever actionable data is required. Now, history has seen, especially in India, when we've seen, let's say, wars like Kargil, even on land, we've managed to kind of use the data which was being provided by the locals there, intercept, and then we had much better idea in terms of the movement of our enemies. So the same thing can be replicated in the maritime region, and here our fishing communities are ones that who are going to be our first line, not of defense but of intelligence gathering. So in this regard, we can have identity cards being given to these fishermen and also the other residents who are in these particular coastal villages. It can do wonders in terms of providing intelligence to our security systems. Also, the marine police forces of these coastal areas, particularly the ones whose jurisdiction extend beyond 5 nautical miles out into the sea. All right, they were given 73 police stations, and the coastal police is further briefed up with providing helicopters and other equipments necessary for their immediate defense. All right, so there we are also kind of trying to create some kind of security buffers, not exactly bases per se, but at least have some kind of retaliation on an immediate level in these particular coastal states. Now, in addition to this Sea Vigil, we also, like I was telling you, that we have to talk about Tropics, which is nothing but theater level readiness operational exercise, which is a biennial exercise conducted by, again, definitely the Indian Navy. Now, this particular theater level exercise is done in different phases. Okay, the objective is to test the Navy's transition from peacetime to hostilities, which means that how well do you activate, how well do you retaliate, and what do you do in the event of an emergency. So the first phase of this particular defense exercise is, of course, the Sea Vigil, which we've spoken about. Now, in totality, these exercises kind of validate that India's Navy's concept of operations in the different scenarios are, we are essentially trying to improve our war fighting capability and strengthen our role in the Indian Ocean region. All right, so this kind of exercise is just a way through which we are trying to strengthen our entire capabilities in the maritime region, in the Indian Ocean region. We hope that exercises like these and more coordinated efforts like these are really going to kind of help us and make us strong, just like we're doing in the border areas on land, we're able to do it in the maritime areas. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. If you have, let me know by liking that button, and also share it with those who are still not aware that we do have a strong system in our coastal areas as well. Thank you for watching.